JJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Breakfast Bankroll for Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. That's right. College football season is over. It's comical listening to the whining and crying and, oh my God, they got it wrong again. I was talking to Jules before we went live, and your national championship game, guys, was Georgia-Ohio State. That's what it was. And no one here, myself and Julian included, didn't say Bama wasn't one of the top four teams in the country. They were. They had 2 losses, guys. Stop a field goal in Tennessee or stop the 2-point conversion in LSU. Beat Georgia in the SEC finals, get to the Final Four, and win 2 more games. It didn't happen. Georgia back-to-back and a thumping, 10-7, and they scored, 50? 52 straight or something stupid like that. Without further ado, let's bring them in. Our weekly trip down 93 North, the one and only Mr. Julian Edlow.
Game went as expected. TCU was out of its weight class, and it's nobody's fault. They won all the games to get there. A lot of people said Michigan could be as good as Georgia. That would be a good fight. I think we saw what happened when TCU played each of them, what the differential there would have been had we gotten that matchup.
I looked at nothing but praise to TCU, Max Dykes, Sonny Dykes, the team.
They didn't do anything wrong.
They
just
did
got dominated by a much better team.
And the world was off their shoulders once Ohio State missed the field goal. Ohio State had a second lease on life when they were invited to the Final Four. And They played their ass off. They did. And they were a field goal away from winning that game. Almost like Georgia had a second lease on life as soon as Ohio State missed that field goal. They're like, okay, now we got a shot. You saw the real Georgia D. You saw the speed. It was, I don't want to say it was men playing with boys. It was an experienced team that's been there before that wanted to do something no one has done since 2012 and win back-to-back championships.
Yeah. I will say you do forget, like they were talking about it on the broadcast, people saying, oh, they couldn't go back-to-back. They lost too much. And like, no, nobody was saying that. Like Georgia was always going to be good enough to contend and was in that group of Alabama and Ohio State. But you do forget that they had the 15 draft picks. That's a lot of players. So like it is impressive how they reloaded and got right back after it and how they'll have a chance to do so again next year. But I did forget, so credit to Georgia, that they had 15 draft picks off that roster from last year and were able to repeat in such dominant fashion, 29-1 the last 2 years now.
We're going to go down memory lane. We just had an amazing dinner upstairs at the Circa at the East. We go downstairs to the sports book. I, Dave Sharapan, Matt Peralt sitting at our table, and I'm putting together that parlay. I already had Astros there. I didn't forget Georgia had their whole defense go to the NFL. I didn't forget their offensive players. I'm sitting there saying, do we take Alabama on the bounce back here, or do we take Ohio State? We both knew how good Ohio State was. There was at no point I was putting Georgia on that card. Not 1 point.
I would have felt bad if we were at this stage and you asked me Georgia or Alabama, and I told you Alabama. But yes, in fairness, the question was Ohio State or Alabama. Now I gave you the one that wound up being I don't want to say the worst of the two teams, because if they played, Alabama would probably be favored. But the team that did not get in is the one that I threw in there. But hey, in the end, it didn't hurt. Georgia was the team. We weren't thinking of them. Clearly the best team, like Kirby Smart kept saying, and they kept saying on the broadcast during the game, leave no doubt. They left no doubt that they were the best team, even with squirming by Ohio State.
And it's comical. I would be sitting in the catbird seat with the Astros and now Georgia with the Bills for 11,000. You and I would be getting ready to get up to that, talk to Derek and talk to Mr. Benson, Mr. Metcalf, say, hey, boys, we got this nice ticket here. Why don't you let us have a couple days by the pool so we can simmer and figure out how we're going to play this on Super Bowl Sunday?
That would have been nice.
We're going to have to play it back again, Jules. We're going to have to play it back again. I can guarantee you this.
Board is out. Next year's board is out on DraftKings Sportsbook.
I can guarantee you this. Go
ahead.
I'll have at least 2 tickets. I'm putting Georgia's an auto play until someone beats them. That's the first ticket.
Georgia's favored to three-peat. They're plus 275.
And what is Bama?
Bama was second behind them at plus 500.
And third favorite.
Go ahead. You want to guess the third? You probably can.
So you have the third favorite's got to be, I would assume, Ohio State.
Plus 800 Ohio State, plus 1,000 Michigan. Interesting one at number 5, plus 1,400 USC. USC was right there to get in, lost to a really good Utah team twice. We have no questions about the offense with Caleb Williams back. The offense is going to be fantastic, even with Jordan Addison going to the NFL. It's if they can load up on defense this offseason. You say it almost now like it's an NFL team. Can they load up on defense this offseason, which is now a thing? If they can get a decent defense, USC plus 1,400 is interesting if you want to go down the board a little. 5 teams down the board is about as deep as you can go down the board in college football these days.
Now, if you want to get cute, and I'm going to say get cute because I think they get an easier path to the Final Four. I'm not saying they're going to win the Final Four. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Sam Hartman to Notre Dame, to me, is that's got to be a big. I think you got to buy now and then, because I don't know what they're going to do in the portal, but that seems like a sneaky play to at least get to the Final Four.
Plus 2,500 to win it all. So Notre Dame could be and we'll offer this not anytime soon, but we'll offer this at DraftKings Sportsbook to make the college football playoff. And you're right, they're probably not a team that can win it all. So maybe that's one that you just want to bet them. What would they be? Maybe plus 4, something in that range to make the college football playoff. I don't want to say it. Probably around plus 4 something, 400, 450 to make the college football playoff. That's not a bad bet because they're going to have a really good path. They have all the pieces, and now they get the quarterback. They do need pass catchers, but getting Hartman should attract some of that. They'll probably get a good transfer at wide receiver. So I'm not a Notre Dame guy.
Me either.
I don't like them in general, and when I bet their games, they always seem to find a way to get me. Last year, I backed them in the bowl game. I thought that they would come out and show up for Marcus Freeman in his first game. They were up 21 and they lost. I don't even remember to who. They blew that bowl game. This year, I'm like, they're on their way down. They care about the recruiting, the transfers. South Carolina's on the way up. I'm going to bet South Carolina. They go down 14, come back and win. I'm always wrong on Notre Dame. I feel like they're going to be a team to play on next season in my mind. You want to talk bad parlay beats? You're talking about your championship one. I had some free bets that I threw together, slapped together some like 6-7 team parlays over the holidays through like the end of bowl season. Came out to like a few grand of winnings on free bets. The only leg that lost South Carolina money line against Notre Dame cost it. Couldn't hedge or anything either because there were a few legs after it. So just got to take the L.
NFL, we'll start with the locals. Winning in. The Pats were against the world, obviously, with Damar Hamlin. Again, typical Pats game. Defense played well. You can't give up 2 special team touchdowns. For me, I think it was almost like finally ripping that Band-Aid, taking the scab off. This season needed to end. We need to figure out what the next move is. I listened to the locals. I listened to Holly, Felger, Bedard last night, and they all made some great points. I'm going to ask you the first question. I've been saying all along, Bill O'Brien to the Pats is a no-brainer. He's out there weighing options. If I gave you the option, Cliff Kingsbury or Bill O'Brien, and you could bring one of the two in, who's Julian bringing in?
Bill O'Brien, more familiarity, more success, really. Cliff Kingsbury had a little flash in the pan there in Arizona, but you got to be pretty bad to sign that giant extension and then get canned 1 year into it. Bill O'Brien, he's been in New England. He has the relationship with Belichick. He's had more success overall, more polished, more professional.
Give us the Julian Edlow DraftKings recap of the Patriots season, what you would like to see them do in the offseason. I know it's too early for the free agents. I know 2 wide receivers that they're talking about that will be out there, D-Hop, potentially Jerry Jeudy, and there's going to be boatloads of others. What would you do and what would you like to see?
I mean, for recap of the season, it was pretty clear that they just weren't good enough. That said, it's pretty impressive. They won 8 games, and they easily could have won the Raiders game. They easily could have won the Bengals game. Is there another glaring one in there? Either way, they could have been a double-digit win team right there. Now, some of them could have slipped away as well. That's kind of what 500 teams are. You get some good bounces, you get some bad bounces. But they clearly weren't good enough. Their talent is okay. In terms of the off season, sure, I would love to see some added talent. DeAndre Hopkins would be great. They need some talent, and hopefully they add some of it. But the glaring need for me is a mix-up with the coaching. Put people in roles to succeed. The defense seems pretty sturdy, but you're probably going to need to promote like a Gerard Mayo to a defensive coordinator or something to keep somebody like that at some point in time. So offensively, special teams wise, again, your season just ended because you gave up 2 kickoff returns. If you don't give one of those up, that potentially is a completely different game. So why not put Joe Judge back on the special teams? Why is he your quarterback guy? Why not move Patricia around, get somebody offensively? If Bill O'Brien says no, then sure, a Cliff Kingsbury, anybody with offensive experience. So my need for the Patriots is to mix up the coaching staff.
Obviously, NFL playoffs this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and there's one game on Monday. I'm looking at the, I talked throughout the season, 49ers at one point at 14-1, the Bengals at 11-1. Unfortunately, we talked about the Bills AFC champs and Super Bowl champs in August. I have no skin in the game with the Chiefs. The Eagles have the number 1 and a bye week, number 1 seed of the NFC. What are you holding, and what do you see if you had Biff's Almanac, or let's say February, I think it's 13th, Monday newspaper?
I'm holding nothing at the moment, actually. None of my future plays were to win any conferences or Super Bowl. It was all regular season. And I think it's pretty tough to look ahead. I will give the square answer as a bettor and say I would be pretty surprised if it wasn't one of these teams. I think it would be the Bills, Bengals, or Chiefs out of the AFC. and I would be surprised if the NFC Championship game is not Philly and San Francisco. But I think those are the 5 teams that most people would say are a cut above the rest right now and would be in the Super Bowl. I do feel good about whoever comes out of the AFC, I think, going against that NFC team. So I think we've talked about this on here before, but like the AFC last I looked was like minus 135 or so to win the Super Bowl. And I know it's a weird situation to lay a little bit of juice and not be betting a future on a specific team. But you know it's going to be alive when you get to the Super Bowl, so it's not gonna die throughout the playoffs. You got it alive. I think that the AFC, and by the time we get there, I think the AFC team would be maybe a minus 150, 160, 175, and you got yourself a good number. So that's one that jumps out to me a little bit. I just don't think the numbers are there as much. Like I want to bet on San Francisco to win the NFC, but I don't know if plus 200 is good enough. Should I just bet them game by game? So the board is tough to me now. The one that, because the Bills and Chiefs are priced so highly, betting the Bengals at whatever it is, I think plus 800 or so to win it all feels like the one piece of value left. And I would say the one thing that's keeping me from doing it is that could entail another AFC Championship game against the Chiefs. And Mahomes is going to be out for revenge from last year for how awful he was in the second half of that game. And I would be a little tentative to be going against Kansas City in that spot. But I think the Bengals hold the most value left on the board out of the realistic teams that can actually win it all.
San Fran has absolutely been rolling, and they're number 1 defense in the NFL. They're getting healthier. It was nice to see Debo back on the field. I don't think they'll have much problem this week. Currently, they're 10-point favorites against the Seahawks and Geno. Been waiting for that Brock Purdy brain fart, that hiccup. Haven't seen it yet. Okay. And I kind of like yourself seeing them in Philadelphia. Probably Philly might be 1.5-point favorites, maybe. That is going to be one tough place to play. I mean, everyone was expecting Rodgers to backdoor in. We had the Lions, as you know, as our dog of the day on Sunday. Tom is now facing Dak. The whole world's on Brady. I mean, people remember what they saw last. Tom's never lost to Dallas. Dak McCarthy is not the Quinella or exacta that you want come playoff time. If I had $100 right now and I said just outright, who's winning on Monday, Dallas or Tampa? Your answer is?
I don't love the board for wildcard weekend. I really don't. This is one that the public side is going to be Tampa, but like it's still the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are going to take money. I think Dallas is more than just that bad loss against Washington. Like they did struggle against the Titans in that Thursday night game. They really struggled against Houston. I think things are going downhill in Dallas. The problem is Tampa's not all that good. But I will trust Brady in the playoff situation as the home dog. I think that the public is going to be right on this one, assuming that Tampa does wind up the public side. I was just looking at our betting splits. And again, it's way too early. Like there's so much more money to come in on these. Let me pull them back up. But the bigger bets are on Tampa. It's 56% of the bets for 67% of the handle on Tampa. So there is arguably some sharper money there as well. I think this is one that public and some sharp money is going to be a little bit aligned. Long story short, I'll take Tampa. I don't believe in Dallas right now.
So you said you're not too keen on the board. I'm looking at it right now. Surprised that the Chargers are favored, or were favored, I should say, in Jacksonville?
I kind of expected them to be short favorites and for it to move a little bit, and it did move to a pick. That's a tough game. Jacksonville has a ton of momentum. They didn't look good in that essentially playoff game against Tennessee. They got it done defensively in the end. Chargers have been rolling. I don't know why they played guys last week. You get a guy like Mike Williams carted off. That's tough for them. Chargers have been the better team, and it's not like Jacksonville is the toughest road atmosphere to win in. I want to say the Chargers, but I know, as our splits say, about 2/3 of people are going to be on the Chargers. So, getting a pick'em home team division winner in the wild card round is pretty attractive. It's a stay away for me for now. I think that a lot of like people that have models that will show you something over the course of the season, it'll kind of push you towards Jacksonville. But I don't know if that's going to account for the fact that, the Chargers weren't healthy for such a long period of time, and now they are outside of Mike Williams, and they might be a little bit better than this number is leading on. So like I kind of just did, I can talk myself into both sides of that game, which is usually means it's a tough spot.
On Sunday, Bills minus 10.5 against the Dolphins. To me, obviously, that means Tua is not. That's just my take. Tua will not be playing there. Public, I'm hearing on social media and stuff, all in on the Giants. Everyone knows the Vikings, quote unquote, are frauds. That is the upset of the week. The number that intrigues the bleep out of me is the fact that the Bengals opened at 6.5, did go down to 6 initially, now 6.5. They just put
we opened 5.5 on DraftKings.
That number tells me one big thing: Lamar is playing. That's what my take on it. Lamar is playing. I like the Bengal thought process of potentially Joe and company getting back to the Super Bowl. That defense hasn't allowed more than 17 points in forever. Does that number scare you at all?
It doesn't. I know what you're saying, but I'm gonna go with my eyes over what the book is telling us here, and my eyes are telling me the Bengals are going to win this game. I would probably lay the 6.5, but in this spot, I think if you can find something to tease them with, the Bucks, the Giants, I don't know what you see. That's the problem. What do you tease them with? But I would get them down to the pick. If you want to use them in a money line parlay, like I'm pretty confident in the Bengals in this game because the number tells us Lamar Jackson is playing. Okay, great. Let's say Lamar Jackson plays. He hasn't played in forever now. It's a leg injury for a guy that needs his legs. I don't see him just getting plugged back in and the Ravens just turning on again. I can't see that. Whereas you've got a Cincy team that's rolling now. And Cincy just seems to have Baltimore's number. I know Baltimore is going to be like out for revenge at some point, and they did win the earlier game, but the Bengals got the best of them twice last year. I think that Cincy's going to win this game. I'm not too scared of Lamar Jackson playing, and then all of a sudden people being like, "Oh, you got to back the Ravens." I don't see why. I don't see why he's going to come back and be this game changer that's going to win them the game. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that Lamar Jackson playing would create a pretty big overreaction on Baltimore.
I do agree there. The number is alarming in my eyes. He hasn't practiced.
Ellen Ivan he hasn't been doing anything
since December 4th. We are now on January 10th. So we're talking more than a couple days or a week or two of ring rust here. We're talking 6 weeks.
I said I didn't like the board much. If Lamar Jackson plays and this number goes down significantly, the Bengals would be my favorite play. Laying the points with the Bengals would be my favorite play of the weekend for NFL.
I'm sitting high above courtside where you have season tickets. My daughter was at the game with a couple friends, season ticket holder, was allowed after the game to go down onto the court and shoot around for a little while. So I got some pictures there. Give us the Celtic update, your thoughts as we move into January, and what look ahead for Celtic fans this week.
I think they're fine. I know a lot of it has been made of the losing streak and the bumps in the road that they've hit, but that's going to happen. Maybe they peaked a little early. Now they're struggling a little bit more, but they're gonna ramp it up and bounce back. They have their guys, they have their health for the most part, and they're playing pretty well. The Bulls are a team that usually give them trouble. They got that win at home, so I think they're just kind of in that lull of the season where right now is actually when they turned it on last year. It was a January 6th, I think, loss to the Knicks, January 5th, 6th, loss to the Knicks where they were up 20-something at MSG and lost at the buzzer, and that's when they flipped the switch and lost like 10 more times the rest of the year or whatever it was. This year is going to be a little different because of how hot they came out of the gates. I think, from now until the All-Star break is kind of when you need to find motivation on a night-to-night basis. Maybe you slow down a little bit. But I haven't seen there's no reason that this team can't capture what they had in the playoffs, capture what they had in the beginning of this season again, because all the pieces are in place. So I'm confident that they'll be able to do that. The Durant injury, obviously, in Brooklyn really opens the door for things. The Celtics are going to be on a back-to-back. I think they're home against the Pelicans, and they play in Brooklyn on Thursday night, with the Nets having been off like all week. But now without Durant in that game, that totally changes things. That's a big game in the division. I haven't been riding the team totals as much because it's leveled off as you would expect. But you do get a Pelicans team in here on Wednesday that is definitely going to be without Zion Williamson and likely still without Brandon Ingram. Sets up a spot. They should put up some points coming off of a lower scoring game by their standard against the Bulls. So I haven't gotten there yet. We'll see where we're at tomorrow. Yeah, I would say that the Celtics aren't a team I'm going against right now, but they're a team that I'm backing far less often than I was at the beginning of the year, just because they're in a little bit of a time when they can lose some focus, some motivation. But I would guess it will ramp back up with this team.
Jules, the crawl has been going the whole time. The people watching and listening can follow you at Julian Edlow, at DraftKings, at DK Sportsbook, DK Live, and of course the host of the Unreasonable Odds podcast. As Mass gets, we're launching live in
3 weeks from today.
3 weeks from today, Mass is going live, and then around March Madness, obviously the apps. Tell everyone what's going on with DK as we close up here. Do you have any promo codes for the weekend, or do you know what's coming down the pike? What you can tell all the people that want to hear from DraftKings?
Well, let me see. I know that we're going to have obviously some wild card weekend promos. I'm not sure if all of them are out right now, so I'm going to pull them up right now and see. But every weekend for now, last weekend was our first big college basketball slate, obviously, with no college football on Saturday. So we're running boosts on college basketball Saturdays now. I'll always retweet those. So when you're getting your bets in on Saturday morning, you can get those together. Tonight, the Cavs do play at the Jazz. Donovan Mitchell's returned to Utah, so we're going to have some boosts and some specials on all of his props. Let's see. I don't see anything for wild card weekend yet, so it's a given. We'll have something. I'll retweet it. There'll be some good promos, and you guys can get those in. If you don't have DraftKings Sportsbook, what are we doing right now? 20% deposit bonus up to $1,000. So put in 1,000. Now you got 1,200 in your account.
So technically, Jules, on the 31st, 3 weeks from now, when Mass goes live with the Encore, and I don't know if there's any other brick and mortars that are going live, you guys are still on hold, correct?
Yeah, this isn't something I'm truly qualified to speak on, so I don't take anything from me. I'll just say that my understanding from public information is that we want to have a DraftKings Sportsbook app in Massachusetts for March Madness. And that is nothing that I have control over, but something that I'm personally hoping for, and something that seems like it could be realistic.
And then hopefully somewhere down the line, wink, wink, maybe your own retail place, right?
you would find me there quite often. So I'm hoping so.
Julian, thank you so much. I'll catch up to you later this week, brother.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff.
Take care. The one and only Julian Edlow. Follow him at Julian Edlow. Of course, you can get all his work at DraftKings, DK Sportsbook, DK Live. And if you want a great podcast, go listen to the Unreasonable Odd podcast. Later this afternoon, probably around 4:30 at the latest, we're going to catch back up with Mr. Riley Magnuson at our Mags on Twitter. We will be having our closing bell for Tuesday. We will do a recap of the Georgia TCU game. That will be real quick, of course. But I want a bird's eye view from Riley on the Packers as he was live at the game against the Lions. And listen, it's the same old story. We went through the Aaron Rodgers drama last year. Is he staying? Is he leaving? Is he retired? It's Brett Favre all over again. That's my take on that. So catch us around 4:30. I will tweet when we're going live there. Can't thank you guys enough. Like tipping the dealer. Give us a like. Go over to YouTube or Twitch. Subscribe. It's free at East Coast Sports Investors. Any questions? Hit my timeline at EC Sports Invest. I'll answer any question. If I'm not following you, I'll follow you right now. So have a day, and we'll catch up to you guys in a few hours in the afternoon. See you soon.